if you work with the government to solve affordable housing issues, they will sell you properties for as cheap as $1 in neighborhoods where houses across the street for that same house across the street is selling for $100K. They'll sell you 10 of them at a time for $10, and those 10 houses can be worth $1 million as long as you're helping them to solve affordable housing issues, and you're going to sell those homes or rent those homes to individuals who need solutions and have issues with affordable housing. As an investor, the government gives you a lot of tools, and those tools can make it lucrative for you as an investor, stable for you as an investor, remove a lot of the risks that you have doing other traditional real estate investing. And the most important part, though, you get to help a bunch of people in the process.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your number one source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today is a very special day because our guest today is a father, builder, developer, educator, entrepreneur, realtor, mentor, public speaker, industry disruptor, and a real estate expert extraordinaire. He's the creator of the Buy Back the Block Masterclass, a training tailored around helping aspiring investors achieve financial freedom through affordable housing programs and a proven blueprint that has gone on to make him millions. He's an award-winning builder and developer who's taken his decades in the business and packaged it into frameworks to help viewers just like you go from confusion to clarity through providing free value resources that you need to win in real estate. And whether he's speaking on platforms like this, laying out the step-by-step roadmap needed to collapse your path to success from decades to days, or in the nitty-gritty streets of Philadelphia showing you how to buy your first property with just $1, his mission remains the same: to help you cut through the noise on social media and learn what it actually takes, not just to find your way in this business, but to make sure you stay in this business. And today, he's here to do more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I'm here with the one, the only, my good friend, Mr. J.P. Ferrarini. What's going on, family? How are you?
Nothing much, brother. I appreciate you, man. I'm doing amazing, especially after that amazing introduction, man.
Hey, man, listen, you gotta when you got royalty on the show, you gotta make sure you treat them right, man. So I appreciate you coming through, brother.
Respect. I appreciate it as well. I'm happy to be here.
Most definitely. Looking forward to this episode. Definitely gonna be a very, very fun one. What's funny is I think I've known about you from afar for quite some time. So I always knew the stars would align and we would be able to make this happen. And I'm finally happy that we were able to do so. You know, you're a treasure trove of information. And when it comes to the game of real estate, man, you have done incredible things that I'm looking forward for us talking about here on this episode. So once again, thank you for coming on the show, man.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So I know I did a okay job introducing you, but obviously nobody knows JP better than the man himself. So for those who are unfamiliar, let's get them familiar. Who exactly is Mr. JP Ferrarini?
So you hit it on the head. You know, I'm a developer. I'm a builder in the real estate space. But more importantly, the things that I'll take my pride in is being an educator, making sure that I'm teaching people, sharing the blessings, sharing the knowledge, and last but not least, being an industry disruptor. And what that means is, you know, I'm in these rooms, I'm at these tables, I'm in these places, I've had a lot of success.
Yeah.
But I take pride and I take a responsibility to make sure that I'm knocking down some of these doors and knocking down some of these barriers and disrupting the norms to make sure that our people are in the room. You know, our communities are in the room and having success. And, you know, for me, it started off like just from, you know, that passion developed through my upbringing and growing up in uptown Philadelphia. You know, I was raised by a single mother. My mother had about a 9th grade education, man, but she was a hustler. She was always doing something to make ends meet, whether she was hooking a stand to the back of a station wagon to sell fruit salads on the avenue, or whether she was selling Mary Kay products door to door. She was always making a way. And growing up, seeing that hustler spirit in my mother kind of just groomed me to, you know, take and do the same. And so through growing up that way, man, having a single mother, growing up in Philly, you know, it was rough. It was obstacles, it was hurdles, it was challenges. Yeah. And we faced a lot of hard times. And that created resilience in me. I watched my mother struggle, and I didn't have my father in my life, and I always was trying to figure out a way to make it trying to figure out a way to make it since day one. And through that, I faced a lot of adversities. I faced a lot of challenges. You know, I lost people that were close to me, for like fathers to me at an early age. I was in and out of the juvenile justice system, you know, as a young adult back into the adult system, and a lot of people counted me out. And, through that journey, we were always just still trying to make a way. And my family was able to find some success in the construction industry. Like my life came into the construction industry. My resources started to develop in the construction industry. We took a business that we started out of the trunk of a car with a bucket full of tools from the pawn shop. It was a Chrysler 200C. I don't know if you remember those. Filled up a bucket of tools from the pawn shop and took a small handyman business and grew it into a nationally awarded brand. Started doing luxury design build projects, getting featured in magazines, getting on TV shows with Chef Gordon Ramsay. And I started to attain the success through construction. In the midst of that, I went back to school and went back for electric, became a licensed master electrician. Went back to school for construction management, became a certified construction manager. I just started to realize, like, regardless of your adversity, if you educate yourself, you're going to be able to elevate. And I just continue to elevate. Started an electrical contracting business, started a general contracting company. My family business started blowing up, and my life started to change. My family's life started to change. And I started to get into these rooms. I started winning awards. I won 30 Under 30 from the National Kitchen and Bath Association, Person of the Year, Professional of the Year from the National Association of Home Builders. I'm getting all these big awards on all these big stages, and I'm in the room with all these billionaires and 100 millionaires in the construction industry. And I looked around the room, and I didn't see anyone that looked like us. I don't see people that come from situations, people that come from struggle, people that are trying to overcome situations. And so I said to myself, I got to do something about this.
This is interesting because I'm so used to sitting down with people who are entrepreneurs and investors who actually come from a background of a traditional path where they're almost like the black sheep, right? Where mom and dad usually have traditional, like 9-to-5 career-based jobs. And then more than likely, they're the ones that are kind of going against the grain, and they're the first ones to start a business or realize like the traditional path isn't for them. But for you, you sound like you were exposed to entrepreneurship early on. You talked about kind of just watching your mother essentially hustle, right? And put two and two together to keep a roof over you guys' head and make sure you take care of things, which ultimately ingratiated you into the space. What were some of those early memories for you? You talked about starting a business out of the trunk of your car, because in today's day and age, we make it seem like the early stages of entrepreneurship is glitz and glamour. You and I both know it's a lot of things, but it ain't that. What did some of those early memories look like for you of getting started in the space of business?
I mean, to be honest with you, man, in the beginning, it was just all about just trying to survive. Like, I didn't choose construction. I don't think my mother chose construction. It was the hustle, and it was a means to survive and keep a roof over our head. And early on, I just learned that there was an opportunity, but then I also learned that the more we put into it, the more we got out of it. That's where the education piece came into play. Once I started going back to school for this, we made more money. Once I went back to school for that, made more money. And so I noticed that correlation early on, like education, paperwork just started to elevate us. And I learned that was a way out. And, I learned that could be shared with the community too. And that's why I made sure to come back to the community and provide that same blessing that helped me with the education and put it back into our neighborhoods.
I read a quote from you the other day kind of talking about your story where you said, I didn't have a father growing up. I never went to college. I started in construction almost 20 years ago. First, I mastered electric, then carpentry, then construction management, then design, and then real estate. So like you said, you were kind of going to school, getting these certifications, learning about these different tricks of the trade, but then that's when you finally ultimately got into the space of real estate. So you didn't get in there kind of straight off the rip. There were a lot of steps for you to get there. If we move forward in your journey, what did those early days of getting started in real estate look like?
Originally, like as a contractor, I was building other people's real estate. And I was, helping people with their ownership. I own my business, don't get me wrong. Ownership of your business in the construction space is a great opportunity, is a great situation. But I was building other people's legacy. I was building other people's passive incomes. And back about 12, 14 years ago at this point, I said, you know what, I got to do this for myself too. And I did a project with my brother. And from then on, I started to realize I got to make money with my business, but I also got to build legacy by owning real estate. This money that's going to work for me when I'm sleeping, this money that's going to grow and compound for my family. And once I started that, I kind of was like, okay, like this is where it's at. And I started making shifts from doing work for other people as a contractor to being a contractor on my own projects. Like fast forward to today, I'm still a contractor, but I'm a contractor on my own projects. I develop and build my own projects.
Yeah.
And so I kind of brought it all together, and it's been history since.
Were there any losses that you went through in the early stages when you were getting your feet wet in the real estate space?
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, losses make bosses, like, and everybody's so quick to glamorize and glorify real estate. Real estate is an amazing business. It's an amazing opportunity to build generational wealth, passive income, all of those things, but it's a business. And so, of course you're going to have losses in business, especially as an early entrepreneur, especially early on. In the beginning, I think my biggest mistake was I was just doing too much. Like I had a background, and my family we went from a trunk of a car with a handyman company and grew it into like a luxury design build brand called Farini Kitchens and Baths. And we were doing $150,000 bathrooms, $250,000 kitchens. We were doing projects for Chef Gordon Ramsay. People were paying like hundreds of thousands of dollars for cabinets and appliances. And so I was so used to doing high end. And when I got into real estate, I'm like, I'm gonna make everything high end. I'm gonna make these projects as beautiful as possible, regardless of, sometimes the numbers, regardless of sometimes the location. So I was over improving buildings and putting too much money into the products. And, at the end of the day, we would have these beautiful homes that would be $5 million, $2 million in another neighborhood, but we're in a neighborhood where it doesn't matter how nice the house is. The
neighborhood is the neighborhood.
The neighborhood is the neighborhood. The ceiling is the ceiling.
Yeah.
So people love the house, but the offers will come in line with the neighborhood, maybe slightly higher. And so I learned some lessons quick that just because you can do this and do that, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah. So when do you feel like you're getting into this space, you're taking losses early on, but was there a specific moment or maybe a series of moments where you felt like real estate finally started to click for you, where you're like, all right, I got it. I think I'm starting to figure this thing out?
Yeah, I would say when I found affordable housing. So leading up to 2018, that was my earlier phase of my real estate career. That was also some of the earlier stages of me doing education in the community. I have a program called Trades for a Difference. Working in the community, educating young people, educating brothers coming home from prison, working doing free repairs in the community, teaching construction and trade. And, so I was doing real estate, I was doing Trades for a Difference, I was running my construction business, but it was kind of just like business on the real estate side, business on the construction side. My purpose, my mission was on the Trades for a Difference side.
Yeah.
And so I had them all kind of separate. And in 2018, I was exposed to opportunities in affordable housing, and we were educating and training people in the public housing authority, teaching young people, people of all ages living in the housing projects, how to do construction, how to do trade, helping them get jobs. And an opportunity came to me through that act of service to take properties that were owned by the housing authority and repair them and turn them into quality homes and sell them as affordable housing. And that's when like my skill sets with construction, my mission-driven purpose in the real estate, but now affordable housing all came together. And like from then on out, it was like, yeah, this is where I found what I wanted to do, and in real estate, but in the affordable housing space by serving people too.
I want to take some time to dive a little bit more into it, because I know you champion that a lot within your brand and just what you talk about in real estate. I think when people, even myself, right, from someone who talks to investors like yourself and watches the real estate game from the outside looking in, when I hear affordable housing, immediately my mind goes to like I think it's called Section 8, right? But from listening to you speak, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, there are a lot more layers to that program than just Section 8. Talk a little bit about understanding affordable housing and pretty much how you've been able to use it to leverage and build your real estate portfolio.
Absolutely. So affordable housing is a broad term, right? When you bring it up, everyone has their own interpretation of what affordable housing is. A lot of people minimize it down to just being one program, like Section 8. I hear that all the time. Affordable housing is Section 8. Oh, I know about that. But what affordable housing really is a solution to a problem that we're trying to solve right now in this country. Right now, over 75% of homes that are available on the market for purchase are unaffordable to the average median person, they say, the average middle income American. Over 75% of homes aren't available or aren't affordable to the average person. That's a huge problem. Over 50% of rental opportunities, homes for rent, apartments for rent, are unaffordable to the normal person.
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge problem. Affordable housing is trying to put people in a position to where they're not spending more than 30% of their income on housing and utility. You know, we're trying to remove this burden of people having such expensive housing costs so that they can afford to live and then also be able to afford to grow, educate, you know, build businesses and thrive in life. That's what affordable housing is. It's very broad, but at the end of the day, it's very solution driven. And so under affordable housing, if you're trying to solve the problem for 75% of people not being able to afford a home, that's affordable housing. If you're trying to solve a problem where people aren't spending more than 30% of their income so they got money left to be able to thrive and grow, that's affordable housing. And there's a lot of different programs underneath it, not just Section 8. There are literally about 70 different programs that the government has in place, from federal government, state government, to city government, to solve those affordable housing issues. And so when you talk about affordable housing, we're trying to solve working with those programs, but for anybody from the middle on down who needs help.
So walk me through that. If I'm a new investor and I'm kind of starting from ground zero, like I want to get started with my first property, and I hear you talk about leveraging affordable housing, not just to build my portfolio, but also to actually make a change and a difference in the community. What does that process look like? Does it change how I go and find my first property? Does it change how I rehab my first property? Does it change my overall approach to securing the property and the individuals I put in it? Like, if you had to give me a walkthrough of what that looks like from start to finish, could you break that down for me?
Yeah, 100%. So when you are a real estate investor, you know, it's a business, right? Don't get me wrong, it's a needed business. When you're an affordable housing developer, you're a problem solver. We're trying to solve these problems around affordable housing. And this creates an opportunity for you to build a solid business, because the government is trying to solve the same problem. And here's the thing. Everyday investors or developers like ourselves can get involved in helping the government to solve these problems, because there's so much problems out here. We need 10,000 homes.
Yeah.
30,000 homes just in my city. There's huge problems throughout this country that need to be solved. So as an affordable housing developer, you get to partner with the government to solve these problems. But in order for the government to get us to help them, to incentivize us to help them, they give us a lot of benefits, a lot of bonuses and opportunities if you know about it. So for instance, if you work with the government to solve affordable housing issues, they will sell you properties for as cheap as $1. In neighborhoods where houses across the street, for that same house across the street, is selling for $100K. They'll sell you 10 of them at a time for $10, and those 10 houses can be worth $1 million, as long as you're helping them to solve affordable housing issues, and you're going to sell those homes or rent those homes to individuals who need solutions and have issues with affordable housing. So as an investor, the government gives you a lot of tools, and those tools can make it lucrative for you as an investor, stable for you as an investor, remove a lot of the risks that you have doing other traditional real estate investing. And the most important part, though, you get to help a bunch of people in the process.
Right. What's interesting is I've heard you talk about, I think you called them like dollar homes. I remember a mutual friend of ours, we was talking about it before the podcast started, Derek Boone, very good friend of the podcast. I think he had talked about, there was one time he had went to, like, he was going through a deal with you, and you guys were at the closing table. And the entire time as he's going, he's like, "This dude talking about dollar house. I got to see." And I think you had like 2 pieces of paper on like the closing table, and both of them said dollar. He's like, "Oh, he wasn't playing." Like there are literally programs out here that allow individuals to be able to acquire property. Once again, as long as they're using it within the restraints of these programs to be able to help the community. I'm so used to hearing, and I'm sure the audience, like I'm used to hearing Section 8 from the standpoint of like Section 8 is great because it's guaranteed rent. But now you're talking about programs that aren't just securing and guaranteeing cash flow that's coming in from rental income, but put you in a position to be able to completely downsize the cost of getting into your first property. What are some of the more common programs that newer investors can start looking into, or maybe even some people that have been in the game, maybe feel like they hit a wall and they're like, dang, there has to be a better way to do this real estate thing. What are some of those different programs that they can start looking into within the real estate space?
Yeah, absolutely. So the government gives you a lot of tools and a lot of resources to make affordable housing happen, right? Selling you properties for $1 or what we call a nominal fee. They're selling you a property for way less than what it's worth because you're going to do affordable housing. They're selling you land for way less than what it's worth as long as you're going to do affordable housing. They're selling to you for a nominal fee. So I want to educate the listeners, right? Don't go up to the government or go up to your politicians and say, sell me a dollar house. JP said you sell us a dollar house. You want to understand you are asking, your request is for them to sell you land or sell you properties for a nominal fee for a lot less than what they're worth because you need it for that lower amount to be able to make the numbers work so you can sell it to somebody at an affordable price so that you can rent it to somebody at an affordable price. Because if they sell it to you for the true worth, now it's a regular deal. Now, you got to spend all this construction costs and you got to sell it for this big number to make the numbers work.
Right.
They sell it to you for a nominal fee. You get in very cheap. Your construction doesn't inflate the whole project cost and you can still sell it to someone or rent it to someone and it be affordable. That's the whole reason why they're doing it. I want everybody to understand that. And, they force you though, they restrict you, they make you do affordable housing. So don't think you're going to just get these houses for $1 and turn around and just, do something slick with them.
Right.
As long as you stick with the mission, that access is golden. The other thing to understand, y'all, is why is the government looking for us to partner with them and collaborate with them on this stuff? Why don't they just do it all on their own, right? Some people are like, why do they need me? They need every last one of us that's watching this as private developers. It's called a public-private partnership. The public, the government, partners up with the private, us, for-profit or nonprofit, to build affordable housing. Why? Because we need 10 million plus affordable homes right now. There's such a big need, and the government's big, slow, expensive, and they got a whole bunch of red tape. So their solution is to bring in the private sector to help them. I want y'all to understand that they need us, and it's a collaboration through public-private partnership to make this all happen. They give us a bunch of other tools, though, too, a bunch of other programs. Section 8 is one of them. Real quick, let's talk about Section 8. Yep. Section 8, the Housing Choice Voucher Program. This is when you are helping people that make a 50% of the area median income. This is a number, area median income is a number that the government uses to be able to figure out how much the middle family is making. And they base programs on those income levels. So Section 8 is for families that are making 50% of the area median income. It's the Housing Choice Voucher Program. They can choose to live in any building that a Housing Choice Voucher landlord, me and you, have that landlord license for. We're a Housing Choice Voucher landlord. They can live in our units. That program will pay up to 100% of the person's rent. It's a great program because it helps people in need. And it's a great program because it guarantees government rents. Like, you don't have to worry about if somebody's about to lose their job. You don't have to worry about if someone's gonna be able to pay the rent next month as a landlord, because it is a business. And that program will pay it for you from a government contract. I really like that program though too, because through the Housing Choice Voucher Program, you can get more for a unit or a home than you could get a lot of times if you went out and rented it on the open market. So like a 2-bedroom unit in Philly, I could get $1,850 for it, $1,850 for it. If I rent it on the open market, I get $1,300. So not only am I helping people, I got guaranteed rents working with the Housing Choice Voucher Program. I'm making more money and, creating impact. So Housing Choice Voucher Section 8, that's a great program. That's an amazing program. Another program for y'all to check out, because I came to share some resources with y'all because we want to get y'all involved in this, is called the Home Program. It's the Home Funds Program. This is set up to help the everyday developer, affordable housing developer, to be able to rent units to people at low income levels for $400 a month, $600 a month, $800 a month, because some of our people need those lower rents. If you join this and apply for these home funds, these home dollars, this home program, the government will give you $50,000 to $100,000 per unit. Just to break it down for you, per unit. So if you've got a 10-unit building, they will give you up to $1 million.
That's crazy.
Towards the purchase of your building, towards the construction of the building, and the cost of your building. $1 million. You're talking about OPM. You could take that straight to the table to help people with those low incomes.
Right.
And also at the same time get a great benefit as a real estate investor. It's a game changer. And they do this because, again, they know if they don't give us resources for $500,000, $1 million towards these units, we can't afford to rent it to people for $600. We can't afford to rent it for people for $700. So the government gives us resources, and it winds up being a win-win for the community, win-win for the developer, and you just got a 20-unit building with no money out of your pocket through the home program.
That's crazy. You know what this reminds me of? I'm sure you've heard of government contracts.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is very reminiscent of that, because I've sat down with people who are in the government contracting space, and the thing that they talk about is like, listen, every year the government literally has hundreds of millions of dollars that they set aside to form contracts with entrepreneurs, whether it's contracts for programs around media, finance, so forth and so on. So like, this is almost reminiscent of that in the sense of this. If I'm understanding it correctly, there's a housing problem. The government sets money aside to be able to, or has money that's there to help solve this housing problem. You as an investor come to the government and say, okay, I want to help y'all solve this problem. I have this property that's going to help solve this problem. Property $100,000. If I pay that and I can't help solve the problem at the same time, what are we going to do here? They charge you a nominal fee, I think is what it's called.
Nominal fee.
See, I'm with you. Listen. Charge you a nominal fee so that way you get the property you need to build your portfolio. You're paying minimal costs. And then now, as long as you're still following, what you're supposed to do, you can now use this house to help the government solve their problem. So like you said, it's a win-win across the board. I get a property for little to nothing. Somebody has a place where they can lay their head, or whether it's somebody who's renting or bought the property from me, and the government, one house at a time, is solving their problem. And it's just a cycle that keeps going.
Exactly. Okay. And it's a win-win. And the government has a huge problem. We're helping them solve it, and we're creating wins for the community in the process and making money. There's nothing wrong with that. One of the best things is to be able to make money and have purpose.
Yeah.
That's why, like, in affordable housing, I'm in my zone. I'm able to sustain and even thrive for my family, but also help other families to thrive and survive as well. And one of the beauties of a lot of these programs, y'all, is that when you sell these houses to families in need, they get these beautiful homes. These homes we're doing, they're beautiful. Like, we're not skimping out on them. We're making sure these homes are quality, places that we would love for our families to live too. But the best part, the real story, y'all, is not purchasing the property for $1. That sounds like attractive. That's flashy. The real story is that we are able to sell a family a home because we got it for a nominal fee, for an affordable price. It's quality. But day one, that house comes with $50,000 in equity, $100,000 in equity, $150,000 in equity, because we got it for so low. We can make money, sell it for a price to where they're walking straight into equity, straight into generational wealth, and we level in the playing field. Because a lot of this work is leveling the playing field. Right. There's been a lot of inequality and disparities through housing in this country for centuries. Yeah. And so a lot of this work, what we're doing is retroactively going back or attempting to level the playing field from those things that have happened in the past.
This is good. This is very, very good. So we're getting these properties now. We're securing them. right? Through these respective programs. My question for you is, how far can we take building our portfolio? And I guess this is more, you can speak from your own personal experience. Do we leverage these affordable housing programs to, like, we only want to secure a couple houses through the program, and then after that we can go back to traditional investing? Or can someone strictly build their entire portfolio of properties strictly going through affordable housing programs?
People are building their entire portfolio through affordable housing programs. And this has been going on for decades. And we just haven't been informed. You know, when I say we, I'm talking about community developers,
Right?
black developers, brown developers, women developers. We haven't been in the know. People have been developing their entire portfolios. Now we are realizing and learning what's going on, and we're not gatekeeping it. We're taking it straight back to the community so that we can ignite inside workings of community development. Because you want to change your community, change it from the inside. So you can 100% entirely build your entire portfolio off of affordable housing. When you go to these big conferences that are happening all around the country, there's affordable housing coalitions, affordable housing conferences happening in your state, in your city every single year. And those rooms are full of developers that own thousands of units. Their entire portfolio was affordable housing. My mentors, they're building thousands of units. From here to Dubai, doing nothing but affordable housing. So 100%, this is a space where you can, you know, build, thrive, and scale.
There are going to be a lot of people who watch this episode. They're like, all right, it's time. I'm about to go get my first property. JP told me I can get a property for little to nothing. I'm running a strategy. I'm running the play. What are some of the common mistakes you see a lot of newer investors make whenever you coach them around leveraging affordable housing programs to where we can help people who are watching prevent themselves from bumping their head before they get started?
100%. I would say just thinking it's as simple as going up and asking somebody for $1 house. JP said it's $1 house. I want to buy 5 houses. I got $5. Y'all got to understand there's a level of sophistication that needs to be inside of your conversation. That's why a lot of what we do is we teach people the language. We teach people how to talk the talk so that the government takes you serious. So that when you make those requests, you request it the correct way. The biggest mistake people make is just assuming that it's just as simple as asking for them. You have to know how to ask for them, know how to properly put together an application to apply for them, and then it becomes a lot easier. So a lot of what our work and what we're doing is helping people to know how to navigate that process. Also, you need to know where to go and ask for them. Because people are like, let me go ask the council person. No, don't go and ask the council person. Let me go and ask the community leader. No, you want to go directly to the source. And a lot of people don't know where the source is. And so for sake of, I know this is we move and we on time today, but I'm going to give people my top 2 places.
Let's do it.
To source affordable housing. Remember though, got to make sure you ask them the right way, and we can help with that too. But the top 2 places is 1, your city or your county land bank. So y'all got land banks in y'all communities, right? These are government agencies. They take over public land from tax, from, foreclosures, from, buildings that have been condemned, and they put them into these land banks. The government control them. Their whole responsibility is to take these pieces of land or these properties and push them back into the community for public purpose. Top purposes is business and affordable housing. So these government agencies, these land banks have a bunch of homes, a bunch of pieces of land that you can go and ask them to source for a nominal fee to solve the problem with affordable housing. So you want to make sure you go to the source. Now, where you live, it may not be called a land bank. It may be called a redevelopment authority.
Right.
So I want you to go to Google, y'all, go to ChatGPT even better, and find your county land bank. If nothing pops up, ask it for your township or your city redevelopment authority. If nothing pops up, ask it for your repository. Those 3 words, those 3 names are kind of interchangeable. These are the government agencies that hold this land and hold these properties for you to be able to source them for that nominal fee, way less than what they're worth, to build affordable housing. And so a lot of people don't even know where to start. So that's a big mistake that people make too, just asking the wrong people. Another great place for people to go, because I'm going to give y'all 2. I'm going to give y'all 2 places to go directly to the source, is to the public housing agencies, public housing authorities. Everybody has them.
Right.
You know, whether it's in your city or the next city over, next township over, you got a public housing authority that controls the public housing. They have properties that are distressed, falling apart, blighted, or even buildings and properties they knocked down and now it's a vacant lot and it's just sitting there with abandoned cars on it or people are dumping trash on it. They'll sell you those properties for nominal fee to build and provide affordable housing. Especially if you help them solve a problem, because we problem solvers. So they like, listen, we want to work with you to help solve some problems. And one of the biggest problems that housing authorities have is vertical development for the people that live inside of project housing. They want to, equip them and help them with workforce, but they also want to equip them and help them with home ownership. And so in my city, for instance, in Philadelphia, we work with the housing authority and we source properties for nominal fees and we build them into quality affordable housing. And then we work with the housing authority to sell those houses to housing authority residences. And they get to purchase those properties with instant equity. And the housing authority will give them up to $50,000 to buy that property from us. So the closing costs, everything is covered. So we're helping them to solve a problem with their tenants and residents and clients, and we're helping to vertically develop the community, and it's a win-win for everybody.
I want to shift gears here. I recently had a real estate investor on a couple of months back, and he said something that I thought was very interesting. He said, in this real estate business, everybody talks about being an investor, but nobody talks about being a landlord. And I thought that was interesting because listening to you speak, you talked about mistakes people make, and it's just like, if they follow everything to a T and they secure the property, and let's say they want to keep it for themselves, they rent it out. Now you still have the investor hat, but now you switch over to essentially now it's not just I'm buying properties and that's it. You now have a responsibility to the people that's living there in this house. From your experience, what is the difference between being wearing the investor hat and being a landlord hat for a lot of people who don't know that's trying to get into this business?
Being a landlord is the business. Being a landlord is the business. So, when it comes to any asset that you purchase or any business that you build, it has to be operated, or it has to be managed if it's an asset. And you have to make sure that you watch, cultivate, and support its performance. It's the same thing with real estate. Like people say this is all passive. It can be passive depending on how you structure it. Like a passive deal could be, I'm just investing in Marv's deals and I'm giving Marv $100,000 and Marv, I want 15% return on it, like clockwork every single, for the whole year, APR every single month. That's passive. I'm completely removed from the situation. You run the entire operation. The moment that you are the operator, you own the properties, and you don't have a management company managing the properties, you're the manager, as the landlord. So you could set it up in a way where it's completely passive, but a lot of people, especially in the beginning, you are going to be the operator. You are going to be the manager of these properties once you built them and you put tenants inside of them. And that's the business, y'all. Like, so the biggest thing that I would advise people to do is to, one, be conscious of that. Because a lot of times over the years, real estate has been glamorized. Everybody's just like, just buy real estate and wait. And, they talk about, doing all these fancy strategies to buy the real estate, but no one talks about what happens next, especially once you get to the back end. What I would tell people to do is be conscious of that. Make sure this is something that fits your appetite. To be an operator, to be a landlord, to be a manager of your own properties until you can afford to. Be conscious of that from the very beginning, and you're going to put yourself in a lot better shape. When you make that decision, you won't be shocked. The other thing is I would tell people is to have systems. You can have systems to be able to make less of being a landlord and make it to be easier being a landlord. Having a CRM, that customer relationship manager system is one called Rent Ready. Rent Ready is a game changer for my landlords out there. If you're not using Rent Ready, it helps to manage your tenants. They can submit maintenance requests inside of it. Those maintenance requests could go directly to your contractors. They can make their payments. They can message you all through this app on their phone. that system is going to make landlording a lot easier. You know, so make sure that you have systems and you're not just, just running and gunning once you get to that landlord side. And the last thing I would say though is going to make being a landlord even easier, or actually enjoyable to where you're not stressed out all the time, is making sure that you price for being a landlord inside of your deal. Right now, it's a lot of people on social media talking about, oh, the BRRRR strategy don't work, and real estate doesn't work, invest in all these other things. And I'm not even trying to send any shots, but what I would say to people that a lot of times that's because people are buying the wrong deals. And they're not pricing for being a landlord. They're not pricing for the operations when they're analyzing the deal in the beginning. So I would tell people, like, make sure that you analyze for the price of being a landlord, the cost of being a landlord, when you assess your deal before you even buy it. Vacancy. Most people are doing Instagram math. They're not even analyzing deals expecting vacancy. There's going to be times where your tenants, the building or the unit is empty. Usually on average 10% of your income you want to factor for, there's going to be 10% of the time people aren't going to be living in here. Repairs. This is a natural occurrence. People are going to need to make repairs. Things are going to happen. You want to factor 5 to 8% of your project call or your project income towards maintenance, property management, taxes, insurance, all of these things that come with being a landlord, managing the landlord operations, the expenses of your building. Too many people are doing Instagram math and they're not calculating this. They're just saying, okay, the rent is going to be $3,000, the mortgage is $1,500, and they telling people I'm making $1,500 a month. And they're forgetting about all of those operations, all of those landlord's expenses. And so they stressed out saying to everybody, being a landlord is the worst. It's not if you put an 8% property manager fee in there and you don't have to manage it. It's not if you put a 10% vacancy, so when your tenants aren't there, you put repair expenses. It could be a good thing. It could be an enjoyable thing, right, if you price it correctly from the beginning.
I'm so happy that you broke that down the way that you did, because it's just like, from yourself to other investors in the space that I know I'm sitting down with individuals who have 7 and 8 figure portfolios, and things happen, right? This time I'm speaking with people that's dealing with situations where they've had a tenant that hasn't paid in like 6, 8, 10, 12 months. They got to deal with that. And guess what? Mortgage still got to be paid. Individuals that have these multi-million-dollar portfolios, but somebody ain't show up to work, but pipe still busted and somebody got to take care of it, right? I'm curious to know for you, what is the worst tenant situation that you've ever had to deal with in your real estate journey thus far?
Man. So I would say, one, make sure you price for those things, right? Inside of when you're analyzing the deals. The second thing I would say is, a lot of people have these horror stories, especially over the last 5 years. I want everybody to put this in perspective. It's not just the real estate industry that's been struggling and catching a bunch of lumps and bumps over the last 5 years. Everybody's like, oh, real estate is the worst. The last 5 years has been the worst. COVID happened. The whole entire world fell to its knees. We've had a complete shift in the entire geopolitical landscape, the structure, the economy. Like, things are forever different for everybody, every industry, and nobody was exempt from that. So it's like, put some perspective. It's not just real estate. It's not just real estate struggling, y'all. Like, so give yourself some grace. And if you survived this last 5 years, congratulations. You're a survivor. Right. But give yourself some grace. And in terms of like worst tenant situation, to be honest with you, man, like, a lot of my struggles around issues with my tenants come from having too big of a heart. So 90% of my portfolio has always been affordable housing based or public service based. I've had facilities that house aged out foster care kids, veterans, people that are dealing with drug addiction, people that are living with like major ailments like AIDS and HIV. And so like, I'm always bringing the passion piece and the heart piece into real estate. And some of my biggest setbacks have come from that, like renting to people based on how I feel and trying to help. Some of the longest times I've gone unreceived on rent with the people I've been trying to help. Like, I had this one building where I housed a bunch of young people in the middle of COVID, and man, I was just trying to help.
Yeah.
And it turned into $100,000 loss.
$100,000?
Because man, it just turned into $100,000 loss. A big multifamily project trying to help people.
Right.
$100,000 in losses from unpaid rents, and trying to give people grace and trying to give people time and trying to understand people's situations. It was one of the biggest losses that I've ever took. It was with the best intentions, but I learned that I still have to protect my interests, because at the end of the day, I can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep.
You know, so for my children, you know, I can't, you know, feed them with good deeds. You know what I mean? And so that was a major lesson that I learned. And I bounced off of it, and you know, I still work with young people and house young people. I'm just a little less driven by always just trying to help in ways that allow you to neglect your responsibility. Like now it's like, young person, I love you, or whoever we housing, I love you, but if this rent isn't paid by this point, this set time, the process is we just gonna send a notice to evict. And I still love you though.
I just need the mortgage company need their money, and I need my money.
Yeah, man, it's a challenge these days. Like, you mentioned something that's is deep. Like, people can go 8 to 11 months without paying rent.
Yeah.
And it's sad, because I tell these legislators and I tell council people that, yes, we want to help people and we want to, you know, keep housing affordable, but we also have to think about that small landlord who owns 2 or 3 properties. You know, that if they don't make their mortgage, their kids are going to miss their tuition payment and they're going to have to get kicked out of school. Or if they don't get the rent from this person not paying for 8, 9, 10 months, you're going to miss your mortgage payment, and they're going to mess your credit up, and that's going to mess your business up. Or they're going to come and take your house because you couldn't pay for your other buildings. So it's a thin line in between trying to be pro-tenant and helping everybody, and also making sure that, like, you can sustain in this business. So you got to be conscious of those dynamics in this game.
One of the things you also mentioned too, you talked about the shift that happened from COVID till now. I remember from the outside looking in during COVID, one of the things I heard a lot of investors in the space talked about was there was a big debate between quantity over quality in real estate. So like a lot of things I would hear is like more doors. You got to get as many doors as possible, 100 doors, 200 doors. I'm trying to get to 1,000 doors, but I don't really hear as much of that now the way that I was hearing during COVID. What's your take when it comes to quality versus quantity in the real estate business? Does more doors equal more success in this business?
No. You know, it's not about how many doors you have. It's about your margins on the doors that you have and the predictability on the doors that you have. You got people that have 100 doors that are running in the red, losing money every month because they bought the wrong 100 doors. You know, or their operations aren't tight around 100 doors, and you got somebody that only has 12 doors that's netting more profit. At the end of the day, I think it all comes down to your net profit. I think it all comes down to what type of portfolio you're trying to build to provide for what you need, right? And what I mean by that is, like, everybody's always so quick to say, this is better, that's better, new construction is better, the BRRRR strategy is better, event spaces are better, you know, storage units are better. But in reality, the best thing is the best one that turns the best profit, is the easiest for you to manage, and puts you and your family in a position that, like, solves your needs, or, you know, builds your lifestyle and builds your legacy. So that can be from 12 doors, properly managed. You don't need 50 poorly managed doors to be able to get that.
So then for you now, because another thing you also mentioned is, I feel like I'm hearing both sides of the coin. There are certain people that are saying wait to buy real estate because the market is X, Y, and Z. But then you also have people that are saying buy real estate and wait, right? Because the market, there's never a better time to buy real estate than now. Where do you see, what is the current state of where we are right now based on what you're seeing, and where do you see the market heading over the course of the next couple of years?
I mean, I think it's always buy the right real estate and wait. Buy the right real estate and wait. So no more Instagram math, y'all. I say that jokingly, but I'm dead serious. Too many people don't know how to underwrite a deal. There's a document, it's called a pro forma. You know, it projects the cash flow, the profit margins, all the expenses now, and then it also projects out for the next 5 years, 10 years, and what happens if this goes wrong, that goes wrong. All of those contingencies, all of those, potentials get priced in there. If you are not doing a pro forma and you're doing real estate, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. That increases the potential that you are going to buy the wrong real estate and wait. But if you use these pro forma tools, it's a simple spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy the right real estate. And, that's always going to put you in that position of strength. So at the end of the day, we got a saying we say if the deal pencils out, it's a good deal. Does it pencil? Pencil means that your pro forma says the margins are good, the cash flow was good, all of those metrics that make a good deal, your pro forma says it. And that's when the deal pencils out. So right now, I don't care if it's a good time. I don't care if it's a bad time. If the deal pencils out and you properly underwrote it and you checked you check through your numbers, it's a good deal. Now, in terms of like more of like 1,000 feet up in the air view, I think that the real estate market is coming back. The last several years has been really, really tough. Coming off of COVID, inflation, increased labor costs because we got huge labor shortage, increased supply costs, wire, lumber, materials are all costing a lot more.
Yeah.
They've been starting to level out. And the most important thing that's been leveling out has been the cost of capital. So like, here's the thing. These interest rates have played a major factor in real estate, especially the cash flow on your deal. We were getting 2.75% interest rates 3-4 years ago. 3.5% interest rates 3-4 years ago. Any deal can produce cash flow with a 3.5% interest rate, a 4% interest rate.
Right.
Because your mortgage is way less. The lower the interest rate, the lower your mortgage.
Right.
The more the spread. So a lot of deals, had good spreads because the money was cheap. But over the last several years, money's become very expensive. It's shot all the way up to 8%. Some people are even paying 9%, more than triple the amount of what people were paying in 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
So money, the cost of capital has been starting to level out again. So now you got cheaper mortgage, so it's more cash flow. Also, too, when you're doing these big construction projects, your money's cheaper to do the construction because the interest rates are starting to come down. So me personally, as I see these interest rates that keep coming down more and more, I think the market's starting to look better. And as the labor markets, as the supply markets start to level out, I think the game is starting to look better. You're starting to see people starting to prepare to start doing more projects again.
Marvelous. Damon John has a quote that I love where he says 50% of a watermelon is better than 100% of a grape, right? And he's pretty much alluding to just the power of collaboration. What is your take when it comes to navigating partnerships and collaborations in this business? Because I think I've heard both sides of it to where there are people who have been able to do tremendous things in building their portfolio in the real estate space. But then I've also heard some horror stories as well to where it's just like you got people that partner with the wrong cat and then lost couple thousand, tens of thousands of dollars and it set them back quite a bit. How do you navigate partnerships in this real estate space? Are you a lone wolf where you're just like, I got me and my team, y'all stay over there, we gonna do what we're doing here? Or are you actively open and looking to navigate partnerships to help build what you're already, the foundation you've already set?
Collaboration is key. And Damon John said that 50% of a watermelon is better than 100% of the grape. I thought I made that up. I've been saying that for years. Like, it's so true.
Right.
50% of a watermelon, 30% of a watermelon is better than 100% of a grape. And collaboration is what everybody at the top is doing. Like, I sit on the board of the largest development associations in the country. Look them up. The BIA, we're the largest development association in the state of Pennsylvania. I sit on national leadership for the National Association of Home Builders. I'm in the Leadership Academy. I'm on the National Delegate Committee. I'm around the biggest. We're building 80% of all new construction development. My organization did over $100 billion in development last year. I sit at these tables with these guys, all the biggest players in the space. They're all collaborating. They're all collaborating and they're all working together collectively to be able to make these $100 million, billion-dollar deals work. everybody's bringing a piece to the puzzle.
Yeah.
The big thing I would say is that, success has a model. Look around at the people who are the most successful in the space, and we need to emulate and do what they're doing and innovate upon it, make it better, for us. And so when it comes to collaboration, it's key, but make sure you're collaborating with the right people.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you align yourself with the right people. Integrity is a big thing, because you got millions of dollars on the line. So first thing, minimum mandatory, is you got to align with people with integrity. You got to align with people that have something to lose. There's a lot of risk in this game. There's people that will do any deal, every deal. They just so excited. We're not collaborating with them. We want to align with the people that got something to lose. We want to align with the people that's bringing something to the table that you don't necessarily have, right? Everybody got a piece to the puzzle. I might be really good at construction. You really good at finance. Let's go.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then you might have somebody that's, really good at, putting together the design and, making sure that these are going to be beautiful projects. Let's go. So everybody has their role. Those type of collaborations, thrive and do really well.
As you reflect, because once again, you're very established in the space and you've done a tremendous job just not only talking about your journey, but just giving so much game to the people that are watching. When you say you reflect on your journey, what would you say, what's the one thing that you wish that if you knew it 5 years earlier, it would have made you a lot more money than the money that you're making now?
I would say to learn the paperwork that's keeping you out of the game. Paperwork. Learn the technical, the nuance, like the nerd stuff that you got to sit down and read that book, or you got to sit down and watch that long, boring video. That's where all the greatest information and the greatest knowledge is. When you talk about applying for affordable housing, there's an application. It's asking you just all these technical questions. Learn it. Once you know it, that gate is open. When it comes to structuring your financing for your deals, one of the biggest things that keeps us out of these deals is we don't understand something called capital stacks. We don't understand how to build out a capital stack, a mixture of capital, the big loan, a smaller loan, some money from some of our investors. We don't understand how to talk that language, to get people to invest, to work with the banks. We got to learn those things that we don't know. That technical stuff that we don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of it, I call it those old boy club. The old boys club, those secrets that have been in those inner circles, for years. And a lot of it's around that paperwork or that boring stuff that we just don't want to sit down and lock in and do. So I would say early on as possible, learn the pro forma, learn how to structure financing, learn how to fill out these applications, all of those things that's sitting in a book or on a stack of papers. Because it's not what we don't have a lot of the time. That keeps us down is what we don't know. And, putting us in a position of knowing puts us in a position of strength. So I would say, let's sit ourselves down, lock yourself to the chair, be bored for 3 hours, read all the way through it so you can get to it.
What would you say are the top 3 moves that you made that have had the biggest impact on your journey as an entrepreneur and as an investor?
The top 3 moves or top 3 things, I would say, number 1 is smart people hire people that are smarter than them. Every single thing that I've been able to learn and evolve and grow in this business has been modeling after somebody else that did it before me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of power in being able to hire people like that, right? I can hire someone who's been doing something for 30 years and they'll work for me for $200 or $30 an hour. Now I got 30 years of information, 30 years of knowledge. When I graduated from electrical trade school back in 2006, this was way before I became a licensed master electrician. I hired people that were doing electrical contracting for 20 years, 30 years. I was fresh out of trade school. I just got my certificate, a 6-month training program. I said, I'm gonna start a business. And I went and hired people that have been doing it for 20 years that didn't want to own a business, that would work for me as long as the check cleared on Friday.
Yep.
And I learned from them. They showed me the game. So I learned a lot from being able to just hire people that's smarter than me, be around people that's smarter than me, position myself around people that's smarter than me. And you ain't gotta be smarter than me in everything, but if you're smarter than me in finance, I need you around me for finance. If you're smarter than me in, operations, I need you around me for operations. And, in a good way, we both benefit. Win-win situations. That's been my biggest strength.
At this stage in your journey, with everything you've accomplished, because it doesn't seem like you have much more that, or maybe might be wrong, but what would you say is the North Star for you? What are you chasing at this point?
I want to be the largest affordable housing developer on the East Coast, if not the USA. And I want to help elevate a group of powerful individuals through our communities all throughout this country, being the leaders of affordable housing development in their markets. Because honestly, there's so much opportunity in it, but not a lot of us are in the space.
Right.
Not a lot of us are at the table. And so for me, I want to be able to reach that top pinnacle in the space.
Powerful. As we start to close, my last question for you. Sitting where you are right now, if JP 10 years into the future was dropped in and he could share one piece of advice with you, what do you think he would say to you?
Probably would say, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. Like, that's something that I even try to live in now, is like, being an entrepreneur is so stressful at times.
Boy. Boy.
It's a lot that goes into it.
Bro.
But you gotta teach yourself and just always remind yourself to enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Like, the stressful parts can be the fun parts too.
Yeah.
The challenging parts can be, the parts that you make it into a game to figure out. And that's an important thing that I'm trying to embody, like, in this place of my journey, is just like enjoying the ride. And I think 10 years from now, the JP would, just reiterate that to me, like, and just keep that on the forefront, at all for myself, for this entire time.
My brother, I appreciate you for coming on the show. I know that we got to get you out of here, but before we do, your camera right here, let the people know where they can find you, what you have going on, and most importantly, how they can get connected with you.
Absolutely. So y'all can follow me on Instagram. It's j.p.farini. A lot of my trainings, my programs and resources and content and gems can be found there. We got a lot of amazing things coming up in the future for 2026. We are on a mission, y'all, to empower, train, educate, and activate as many community-driven affordable housing developers to be the change that we want to see in our community. There's no better way than to make sure that the change that's happening in our community, the much needed development that's happening in our community, is fruitful for us, is in the direction that we want it to go, than by us leading it. So throughout this entire year, we got training programs and we got meet and greets. And y'all want to make sure that y'all get into these rooms so that y'all can get a seat at the table and y'all can be a part of this work. We have some valuables that we want to give out today too, because we want to make sure that we empower. 100%. We want to make sure that we leave y'all with something special. You tuned in, you locked in with us for this session. I want to make sure that I give you something though to go out and build and expand upon. So we're going to be providing all of our listeners with some free resources. We got an affordable housing term list. This is going to be breaking down all of the language on affordable housing. People are always trying to make this into rocket science. They try to make this into something that's like unattainable for us. We're going to break down the terminology, how to speak this language of affordable housing for you. We're going to send you this ebook for free. We also have a CDFI funding resource book. So there's something called CDFIs out here, y'all. Community Development Financial Institutions. These are the banks that's giving you the cheapest loans. These are the banks that are giving you these low interest rates. These are the banks that are allowing you to purchase properties with only putting as little as like 1% 2% down. Y'all need to work with them to build and solve these affordable housing needs. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you a free ebook that breaks down how to work with these CDFIs so that you can get the funding you need, so that you can build the housing that you need throughout your community. All y'all got to do in order to get this is just text affordable, 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 to 215-602-4078. Again, text affordable to 215-602-4078. We're going to send you some information on how you could get activated, some resources so that you can take them and start executing on this stuff tomorrow. And yeah, man, I hope you come and tap into the circle, get these resources so that we can build with you. Marv, I appreciate you having us here today. Of course. You know, the whole Buy Back the Block family, because I say it's us, man. Listen, this is a mission. And it's a we thing. So what I'm doing and what this movement, this Buy Back the Block community is about is building back our communities, buying back our communities together. Yeah. And we're going to have fun while doing it.
Absolutely.
And we're going to look good while doing it.
Come on.
You know, that's, and make this enjoyable and enjoy the ride.
Man, I appreciate you, my brother. But most importantly, I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. And if you haven't already, what are you doing? Take a second, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now. To go ahead, subscribe to the channel, show this episode some love, and also make sure you get tapped in and wrapped in with any and all things that JP has going on. We'll leave a link for everything in the description. And we'll also, of course, put it in the description, the number that they can text with the word affordable so they can get those free resources as well. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host with the most, Marvin Francois. That's the always incredible, my guy, JP Ferrarini. You guys have been good. We've been great. This has been amazing. Thank you all. God bless. And until next time, peace.